If I asked you to design the perfect citizen, what would you create? Someone ambitious, hardworking, successful, or maybe someone who spends most of their life working to buy things they don't really need? Someone who rents instead of owns, consumes instead of creates, scrolls instead of thinks, lives alone, eats alone, sleeps alone, and mistakes convenience for freedom. The strange part is, most people would never choose that life. Yet that's exactly how millions of us are living. Not because we're lazy, not because we're weak, but because the world around us changed in ways that were almost impossible to notice while they were happening. Over the last century, we built the most technologically advanced civilization in human history. We connected billions of people with a device that fits in a pocket. We can order food without speaking to another human being, watch any movie ever made, date without leaving the house, work without entering an office, and somehow, despite having more ways to connect than any generation before us, we've become the loneliest generation that has ever lived. Depression is climbing, birth rates are falling, marriage is declining across much of the developed world. Trust in institutions is shrinking. Trust in one another is shrinking even faster. So here's the question. What if these aren't isolated problems? What if they're all connected? What if loneliness isn't simply a mental health crisis, but one of the defining economic forces of the 21st century? Because the lonelier you become, the more you consume, the more valuable you become. And once you start looking at modern society through that lens, you begin to notice patterns that are impossible to unsee. This isn't a story about a secret group controlling the world. It's a story about incentives, about technology, about economics, about culture, and about how, without ever realizing it, we may have traded community for convenience, purpose for productivity, and belonging for consumption. I'm Frontman. Let's begin. The world wasn't always built this way. If you had been born 100 years ago, your life would have looked very different. Not because people were smarter, not because life was easier. In many ways, it was much harder. But the world was built around a completely different idea. For thousands of years, the family wasn't just a social institution. It was the foundation of civilization itself. Your grandparents didn't live in another country. They lived a few streets away, or under the same roof. Children weren't raised by algorithms or endless streams of content. They were raised by parents, grandparents, neighbors, teachers, and communities who all shared responsibility for the next generation. A family wasn't simply a place where you slept. It was your safety net. If you lost your job, your family helped. If you became sick, your family cared for you. If your house burned down, your neighbors rebuilt it. Nobody questioned whether community mattered. It was obvious, because survival depended on it. And that wasn't just true for ordinary people. It was true for entire nations. Strong families meant stable communities. Stable communities meant productive economies. Productive economies built stronger countries. Whether you lived in Europe, Asia, or America, governments understood something that had been true for centuries. People who build families also build societies. Then, everything changed. Not overnight. Not because one event suddenly rewrote history, but because technology changed the rules of the game. The Industrial Revolution transformed the way people worked. Factories replaced farms. Cities expanded faster than anyone could have imagined. Millions left the villages where their families had lived for generations and moved somewhere completely unfamiliar. For the first time in history, success no longer depended on staying close to your community. It depended on leaving it. Opportunity became mobile, and people followed opportunity. At first, nothing seemed different. People still got married, still had children, still built families. But beneath the surface, the economy was beginning to change. Machines became more efficient, production increased, technology accelerated. Companies discovered they could manufacture more products than ever before. And suddenly, a new problem appeared. How do you keep selling more when people already have everything they need? That question would quietly reshape the modern world. Not through politics, not through war, but through something far more powerful: consumption. Because once economies depend on continuous growth, they also depend on continuous buying. And that changes everything. It changes how products are designed, how cities are built, how advertising works, how media competes for your attention, even how success itself is defined. The question was no longer, how do we build stronger communities? The question slowly became, how do we create better consumers? And that's where the story really begins. When loneliness became good for business. Imagine you own a company. Every year your investors ask you the same question: how will you grow? Growth isn't optional. If your business stops growing, your stock falls. Investors leave, competitors overtake you. So every year you need to find more customers or convince the customers you already have to buy more. Now think about a traditional family: 5 people, 1 house, 1 kitchen, 1 refrigerator, 1 dining table, 1 washing machine, 1 television, 1 Netflix account, 1 grocery bill, 1 internet connection. Now imagine those exact same 5 people living separately: 5 apartments, 5 refrigerators, 5 washing machines, 5 streaming subscriptions, 5 food deliveries, 5 internet bills, 5 insurance policies, 5 sets of furniture. The products didn't change. The number of customers did. From a business perspective, that's extraordinary. Again, this isn't evidence of some secret meeting where executives decided to destroy the family. Markets don't work like that. Markets respond to incentives. If people live alone, companies naturally sell more. If people replace products more often, companies naturally grow faster. If consumers define themselves through what they own instead of who they belong to, brands become more valuable than communities. That's simply how modern capitalism works. And once you understand incentives, you begin to notice something interesting. Look at the language we've adopted over the last few decades. Be independent. Focus on yourself. Never settle. Keep your options open. None of those ideas are bad by themselves. In fact, many of them have helped people build incredible lives. But every cultural value has consequences. When an entire generation delays relationships, delays marriage, delays children, and spends its 20s and 30s optimizing only the individual, society begins to change. Not because someone planned it, because millions of perfectly rational individual decisions create unexpected collective outcomes. Economists even have a name for this: emergent behavior. No single ant understands how to build an anthill, yet together they build something astonishing. Human societies work in much the same way. No single company created modern loneliness. No single government invented it. No single technology caused it. But together, economic incentives, technology, consumer culture, and digital life began reinforcing one another. And slowly, almost without anyone noticing, the individual replaced the community as the center of modern life. Success became increasingly personal. Build your career, build your brand, build your audience, build your wealth. But somewhere along the way, we stopped asking another question: who are you building it for? Because success has a strange way of feeling empty when there's no one waiting to celebrate it with you. And that raises another question. If companies compete for your money, what are they really competing for first? The answer isn't your wallet. It's your attention. The attention economy. There was once a time when companies competed for your money. Today, they compete for something far more valuable: your attention, because attention is the beginning of every purchase. If someone can hold your attention long enough, they can eventually sell you almost anything. A product, a subscription, a belief, an identity. The most valuable companies in the world don't manufacture cars, or refrigerators, or shoes. They manufacture attention. Every notification, every recommendation, every autoplay, every infinite scroll, every algorithm has one purpose: to answer a single question. How do we keep this person here just a little longer? Think about the last time you opened your phone. Did you decide what you were going to watch, or did an algorithm decide for you? One video became 2, 2 became 10, 10 became an hour. You weren't lazy, you weren't weak, you were experiencing something billions of dollars have been invested to perfect. The attention economy doesn't ask you to become addicted. It quietly learns what you're unable to resist. Every second you hesitate on a video, it learns. Every post you like, it learns. Every comment you write, it learns. Every late night scroll, it learns. Until eventually, your phone understands your habits better than you do. And here's where something fascinating happens. The longer you stay online, the less time you spend somewhere else. Less time with friends, less time with family, less time sitting alone with your own thoughts, less time becoming bored. That last one is more important than most people realize, because boredom used to create something extraordinary. Ideas, books, businesses, art, conversations. Some of humanity's greatest breakthroughs didn't happen because someone was constantly entertained. They happened because someone finally had enough silence to think. Today, silence has become uncomfortable. The moment we're alone, we reach for our phones, standing in line, waiting for a train, eating lunch, walking home, even lying in bed before we fall asleep. We've eliminated almost every quiet moment from our lives, and without realizing it, we've outsourced our attention to machines whose only job is to keep it. The strange part is, the more connected we become digitally, the less connected many people feel emotionally. We know what strangers ate for breakfast, but we don't know our neighbors. We know the opinions of influencers on the other side of the world, but we rarely know the names of the people living across the street. Technology promised to connect humanity. In many ways, it did. But connection and belonging are not the same thing. You can have 5,000 followers and still eat dinner alone. You can receive thousands of likes and still have nobody to call when life falls apart. Maybe that's why loneliness continues to rise in countries that have never been more connected. Because information isn't companionship, entertainment isn't purpose, and attention isn't love. But if attention became the world's most valuable resource, there was one industry that learned how to monetize it better than almost anyone else. Not by selling products, but by selling dopamine itself. The dopamine trap. Imagine walking into a casino. There are no clocks, no windows, no reminders that time even exists. Every light, every sound, every machine has been carefully designed to keep you playing just one more round. Not because the casino hates you, because every extra minute you stay inside is another opportunity to make money. Now ask yourself something. How different is your phone? There are no slot machines, but there is an endless feed. Every swipe is another pull of the lever. Maybe the next video will be funnier. Maybe the next post will be more interesting. Maybe the next notification will change your life. Most of the time, it doesn't. But every now and then, it does. And that's enough to keep you scrolling. Psychologists call this a variable reward system. It's one of the most powerful behavioral mechanisms ever studied. You never know when the reward is coming, which makes it incredibly difficult to stop looking for it. Social media didn't invent this principle. Casinos perfected it decades ago. Technology simply put it in your pocket. The average person checks their phone hundreds of times every day, not because every notification matters, but because every notification could matter. That tiny possibility is enough, and once your brain becomes used to constant stimulation, ordinary life begins to feel strangely quiet. Reading a book requires patience. Building a business takes years. Learning a skill feels slow. Even conversations can begin to feel less exciting than an algorithm that knows exactly what will capture your attention in the next 3 seconds. Our expectations begin to change. We stop expecting life to unfold naturally. We begin expecting constant stimulation, constant novelty, constant entertainment. But here's the problem. Real life doesn't work like an algorithm. Love isn't instant. Trust isn't instant. Friendship isn't instant. Purpose isn't instant. The things that matter most in life are usually the things that take the longest to build. A strong marriage isn't created in a weekend. A meaningful friendship isn't built through notifications. A family isn't formed by swiping left or right. They all require something the modern world rarely asks us to practice anymore: patience. Because while technology has become incredibly good at giving us what we want, it has become equally good at making us forget what is actually worth waiting for. And perhaps nowhere is that more obvious than in the way we now experience relationships themselves. Dating has become an app, romance has become a marketplace, and intimacy has become content. That's where the story takes another turn. When love became a marketplace. For most of human history, finding a partner wasn't something you did with your thumb. It happened through your family, your neighborhood, your school, your workplace, your community. People met naturally because they shared the same world. You didn't have 5,000 options. You had the people around you. And strangely enough, that limitation gave relationships something modern dating often struggles to provide: commitment. Today, the opposite is true. We have more choice than at any point in human history. Millions of people are only one swipe away. On paper, that sounds like progress. More choice should mean better relationships. Better relationships should mean happier people. But something unexpected happened. The more options we gained, the harder it became to choose. Psychologists call this the paradox of choice. When our options become nearly endless, commitment becomes psychologically more difficult, because every decision comes with a lingering question. What if someone better is only one more swipe away? Dating slowly transformed into something that looks less like building a relationship and more like browsing a catalog. People became profiles. Profiles became statistics. Statistics became algorithms. Compatibility became data. Love became optimization. The language itself changed. High value, low value, market value, options, red flags, green flags. The words we use reveal how we think, and somewhere along the way, relationships quietly entered the same economic logic as everything else. Compare, upgrade, replace, keep your options open. Again, none of this happened because someone forced it to happen. Technology simply made a new behavior possible. Markets rewarded it, culture normalized it, and before long, an entire generation had begun treating relationships the same way they treated smartphones, always wondering whether the next version might be better. But there is a cost to living in a world of endless possibilities, because when every door remains open, you never fully walk through any of them. You never stop looking, you never stop comparing, and eventually, you stop appreciating what is already in front of you. The irony is almost impossible to ignore. We built technology to help people find each other, yet surveys across much of the developed world show growing numbers of people reporting loneliness, fewer close friendships, and declining relationship satisfaction. Connection became easier, belonging became harder, because belonging has never been about access. It's about commitment, and commitment asks something modern culture rarely celebrates anymore: sacrifice. Choosing one path means giving up every other path. Choosing one person means saying no to thousands of others. Choosing a family means accepting responsibility that cannot be paused, muted, or unsubscribed from. Maybe that's why commitment feels so difficult today. Not because people suddenly became incapable of love, but because we now live inside an economy built around infinite choice. And infinite choice quietly teaches us one dangerous lesson. Never stop looking, never be satisfied. Always believe something better is just around the corner. That lesson doesn't stay inside dating apps. It follows us into every part of life, into our careers, our possessions, our ambitions, even our identities. We become consumers of experiences instead of builders of lives. And if there's one industry that has perfected turning loneliness into a product, it's not social media. It's the business of simulated intimacy, the business of loneliness. There is an old saying in business: solve a problem, and people will pay you. But there's another way to build an industry. Don't solve the problem. Simply become the most comfortable way to live with it. Think about how many products exist today that don't eliminate loneliness. They simply make it easier to tolerate. Streaming services, social media, food delivery, online gaming, virtual communities, AI companions, live streams, subscription platforms. None of these things are inherently bad. In fact, many of them are incredible inventions. They entertain us, connect us, educate us, help us through difficult moments. The problem isn't the technology. The question is what happens when technology begins replacing experiences it was only meant to support. Ordering dinner isn't the same as sharing a meal. Watching someone's life isn't the same as having a friend. Receiving a notification isn't the same as feeling appreciated. And following hundreds of people online isn't the same as belonging somewhere. Without realizing it, convenience slowly begins replacing connection. You stop calling your friends because texting is easier. You stop visiting your parents because video calls are faster. You stop joining local communities because there's always another Discord server, another Reddit thread, another live stream, another endless feed waiting to distract you from being alone. Technology removes friction. That's what it's designed to do. But friction isn't always the enemy. Sometimes friction is exactly what creates meaning. Think about the people you trust most, the friendships that survived difficult conversations, the relationships that survived arguments, the family members who stayed when life became complicated. None of those bonds were built because everything was easy. They became meaningful because they required effort. Modern life is incredibly efficient at removing effort. Food arrives without cooking. Movies begin without waiting. Packages arrive the next morning. Conversations happen without leaving the house. Almost everything has become easier, except happiness. That still refuses to arrive on demand. Maybe because happiness was never something you could order. Maybe it has always been something you build, brick by brick, conversation by conversation, meal by meal, memory by memory. And that's where modern life creates one of its greatest illusions. It convinces us that convenience and fulfillment are the same thing, but they're not. Convenience saves time. Fulfillment gives time meaning. Those are very different things, because one day, your phone battery dies, the Wi-Fi goes down, the streaming stops, the notifications disappear, and you're left sitting in complete silence. That's usually the moment people discover whether they've built a life or simply distracted themselves from living one, which brings us to a question that almost nobody wants to ask anymore. If we've become richer, more connected, more entertained, and more technologically advanced than any generation before us, why are so many people still searching for something they can't quite name? Because maybe what we're searching for was never something technology could sell us in the first place. The last rebellion. Every generation has its own idea of rebellion. Some marched through the streets, some fought revolutions, some challenged governments, some challenged religion. Today, rebellion looks very different. Because the greatest battle of our time isn't over territory. It's over attention, over time, over meaning. Every single day, thousands of voices compete to tell you who you should become. Buy this, watch this, believe this, fear this, desire this. Consume this, become this, and somewhere beneath all that noise, it's easy to forget that you still have a choice. You don't choose the world you're born into. You don't choose the economy. You don't choose the algorithms, but you do choose what kind of life you build inside them. You choose who gets your attention. You choose what deserves your time. You choose whether your relationships become an afterthought or your greatest investment, because attention is finite. Every hour you give to one thing is an hour you take away from something else. That's the real cost of distraction, not the time you waste, the life you never build. Imagine reaching the end of your life. Your bank account is full. Your phone contains thousands of photos. You've watched every trending show, visited dozens of countries, collected experiences, built a successful career, but there's no one sitting beside your hospital bed, no children arguing over who inherited your terrible sense of humor, no lifelong friend who remembers who you were before success, no family stories that continue after you're gone. What would all those achievements be worth? History remembers empires, but empires collapse. History remembers companies, but companies disappear. History remembers fortunes, but fortunes are spent. The things that survive the longest are rarely the things we buy. They are the things we pass on. Values, character, wisdom, traditions, love, a family, a community, a life that mattered to someone besides yourself. Perhaps that's why every civilization, no matter how different its language, religion, or politics, eventually arrived at the same conclusion. Human beings were never meant to carry life alone. Maybe we've confused independence with isolation, productivity with purpose, convenience with connection, and consumption with happiness. Those are not the same things, because happiness was never something you could purchase. Meaning isn't delivered by subscription. Belonging doesn't arrive with next day shipping. It has to be built slowly, patiently. One conversation, one friendship, one meal, one promise kept, one child taught, one family strengthened, one community rebuilt. That's not old-fashioned, that's timeless. And perhaps, in a world constantly asking you to think only about yourself, choosing to build something bigger than yourself is the most rebellious thing you can do. The question that remains, maybe everything you've heard today is wrong. Maybe loneliness is simply the inevitable price of progress. Maybe this is what every civilization eventually becomes. More efficient, more productive, more connected, and somehow less human. Or maybe history is trying to teach us something. Every civilization that forgot how to build strong communities eventually discovered something money could never replace. Rome had roads, Egypt had pyramids, the British built an empire that stretched across the globe. They possessed unimaginable wealth and power. None of it made them permanent, because civilizations don't disappear the moment they become poor. They disappear the moment people stop believing there is something worth building together. That may be the real crisis of our generation. Not inflation, not politics, not artificial intelligence, but the slow erosion of meaning. We've learned how to optimize almost everything. Our calendars, our businesses, our investments, our health, our productivity. But somewhere along the way, we stopped asking a much older question. What kind of life is all this optimization actually leading toward? Because a career eventually ends. Money changes hands. Companies disappear. Followers forget your name. Algorithms move on to someone else. Even your greatest achievements will eventually become a paragraph in someone else's history book. So what remains? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, what remains because you were here? Did you build something that outlived you? Did you make someone's life better? Did you leave behind more than a collection of purchases and photographs? Because every single one of us is building a legacy, whether we realize it or not. Some people leave behind buildings, some leave behind businesses, some leave behind books, others leave behind children who carry their values into a future they'll never see. Every day you wake up, you are casting a vote for the world that will exist after you're gone. Not through politics, not through social media, but through the way you spend your time, the people you love, the promises you keep, the example you set. Maybe the most important question isn't whether the world is changing. It always has. Maybe the real question is whether you'll allow the world to decide what matters, or whether you'll decide for yourself. Because attention can be bought, convenience can be sold, entertainment can be manufactured. But meaning has always been something you build, slowly, quietly, one decision at a time. So before you close this video, before you pick up your phone, before another notification steals your attention, ask yourself one question. If someone looked at the way I spend my time every day, what would they conclude is the purpose of my life? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, perhaps that's not a reason to feel guilty. Perhaps it's an invitation to build something real, to become someone worth remembering, to leave behind a life that no algorithm could ever replace. Because in the end, the greatest measure of success won't be how many people knew your name. It will be how many lives are different. Because you existed. I'm Frontman, and I'll leave you with one final thought. The world doesn't change when millions of people scroll. It changes when one person decides to close the screen and start building. I'll see you in the next one.